Watching the documentary David Lynch, The Art of Life is reminiscent of watching a David Lynch film. It is a bit off-putting and you leave the theater feeling exhausted, not fully knowing what you just watched, but happy for having watched it. The Art of Life is a simple documentary showing us the upbringing of Lynch through old images and home movies as Lynch talks us through his life. This is done mostly via voiceover.
Every time you do something, sometimes the past can conjure those ideas. Like the past colors them.
Directors John Wynne and Rick Barnes do an excellent job of showing us a side of Lynch we have seen before, but we were never really aware that we were seeing it. And that is his life as an artist. Not an artist in the aspect we know, such as filmmaker, but painting, crafting, and molding art. Throughout the film, we see Lynch working in his home studio as he tells us how he first began his craft as an artist even before he knew that's what he wanted to be. His mother taking away his coloring books because she could see that he was an outside-the-lines kind of person. Another story about a naked woman wandering the streets of his neighborhood, reflecting the image of Isabella Rossellini that we get in Blue Velvet. As the film plays along, we sit through long, silent pauses, moments of music interlaced with the bizarre yet brilliant images of David Lynch's artwork that makes so much about his movies more clear. As a filmmaker, he is simply pulling from these still creations into a story to share with the rest of us. The movie is nearly two-thirds complete before we even hear a mention of his filmmaking, and it is simply to show us the transition from artist to filmmaker. This isn't a documentary of his films. You won't hear the words Twin Peaks or Blue Velvet out of his mouth. The only reference is to the movie Mulholland Drive, and that's just by a sign that we see on the wall for one of the shots. We learn about the inspiration behind his film school films, about the short film that gave him the opportunity to make Eraserhead. The editing by Olivia Neergaard-Holm is an excellent example of how to take something such as a dialogue-driven documentary and portray it in a fascinating series of cuts and graphics. For the cinephile out there who loves the unusual and independent filmmaking scene, this movie will not disappoint. I don't know if we learn more about Lynch or not through this film. I feel I know more about him while also feeling that there is so much more to want to know. The film left me a bit unsettled and a bit inspired, just like one of his films.